Welcome to Living the Next Chapter. It's an author podcast, unlike all the other author podcasts out there, because it's hosted by me, Dave, and I'm not an author. So if you want to meet authors and hear the stories behind what they've done and their books and all the great things, come and get a taste of a podcast done differently. It's Living in the Next Chapter. Thanks for being here. Thanks for pressing play. Everyone, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. Today's all about ketchup and mustard, okay, on the podcast. And you're like, what? Once this will all make sense, I promise. But Meredith Ritchie's on the podcast to talk about Poster Girls, her book. And you got to check out this book. It is beautiful. It's amazing. And my copy's in the mail. It's coming, and I can't wait. I checked. It's not here yet, but it'll be here. And Meredith is on the podcast. Meredith, welcome to Living the Next Chapter. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so everybody's like ketchup and mustard. What are we talking about, Meredith? What's that? What are we talking about?
We're talking about some primary colors. There's just something about it that draws in the eye. And, I think we're talking about it related to my book cover and also my website and also your background.
Right. We're all kind of matchy here. I like that. It's great.
Yeah.
So the website, talk about that. Let's take people to there first. Let's start there.
Yeah, it's meredithritchie.com, and I've tried to sort of give people keep it updated, which it can sometimes be a challenge, but I've got a good team behind that, as well as I have occasionally updated myself. But just kind of keep the readers, the people who are sort of following the word of mouth progress of the story, what's happening with it. So we just added a page about the options contract that it was given recently, and that's a pretty exciting development. But also, keeping track of just my speaking engagements, as well as what readers are thinking about, and how, in terms of rating the novel and the audiobook, which was just released, and then how book clubs can engage with the story.
Yeah. So if you're listening and you're like, Dave, I would love to have a website, but I have no idea what it should look like, go to Meredith's website and you'll see that is an example of a great website. There's a lot of cool features on your site. We were just talking about before we hit record. I love how you have your ratings on there that we can see, right, for Goodreads and Amazon. It's right there on the screen and all the links are there. It's beautiful. So again, if you're wondering, I don't even know where to start. Meredith has a great example for you to start with. So there you go. That's my shout out for the day. Boom.
Boom.
Good. Okay, Meredith, where are you in this big world of ours?
I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is also where the story takes place. So it's that forgotten history that I discovered that was right in my own backyard. So I wrote a story about it.
All right. So take us through Poster Girls. How did all this start for you?
Well, in 2017, I was undergoing sort of a life transition, and it was related to my pending empty nest. So I have 3 children. They're all the same age, and they were all leaving for college. They were all graduating from high school. So I knew I needed something to sort of even out the space between a very busy time period of my life and then what was essentially crickets off and on. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. So wait a minute. So for somebody didn't catch that, all 3 of your kids are the same age and they all vacated at the same time.
Did.
Wow. Like what a vacuum suck out of the house. Just everybody's gone.
That's a great way to describe it. It really was. It was overnight. And so I had sort of been anticipating that transition for a long time, and I'd always wanted to write a book. So I thought this would be a good way to even sort of that dramatic nature out a little bit. So I started with the thought of, I want to write a women's empowerment story. And when you are learning to write your first novel or trying to get your head around what that means to want that and how it would take play, you start by what genre you'd like. So I've always been a huge fan of historical fiction as a reader. So I knew I wanted that as a writer. And so the other thing I learned was, if you, for those out there who are looking to write a novel, as much as you can, try to write what you know. So I was born here in Charlotte. I'm a native, and I really wanted to explore, the city's history. And I knew I wanted to do it at a time when uh, the men would be gone. So I wanted to explore how women lead. So World War II became my best sort of example or opportunity to explore that. And then I discovered this presence of this enormous shell plant that existed that I had no idea even existed. And many of my readers had no idea that it existed. So it just makes you, as a writer and a reader, just kind of wonder, what else did we forget, that we might have learned way back when, and we just stopped talking.
I saw news footage last night, I believe, with two women celebrating their 100th birthday each, and they both served here at home as welders, working in
Mm-hmm.
factories, creating whatever was needed at the time during the war. And to hear their stories from when they were young, learning how to weld and how to make
Yeah,
all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, like what a talk about a vacuum that happened, right? All
right.
the
It
people
was
go to serve their country, and
so fast.
there's
Yeah.
somebody has to stay back and has to create all the things that are
Mhm.
required at that time. And women stepped up in such a powerful way into roles traditionally that weren't at that time frame,
Mhm.
weren't typically it's a job or position that a woman would want to do or be
Right.
or
Yeah.
think of doing, but had to at a necessity, right? It's
Well,
amazing this sort of
welding, I actually took a welding class a couple of Christmases ago, and I just want to see what it was like. It's very hard. I mean, it's very hot, but I can also see where it requires a lot of attention to detail. So women would
right.
be very good at it.
Perfect.
But yeah, I'd always heard about Rosie the Riveter. She's kind of iconic. And I always heard about that sort of call to serve, your country while, maybe not fighting overseas, but how to help in the war effort. And we're all in this together, and how they did do that. I often just thought, well, they were all in California, right? Because there seemed to be a lot more pictures of them in California. I think there's more cameras, maybe, or I don't know what it is in
Yeah.
California. There were certainly no pictures of it here in Charlotte, but it was also a lot of what they did was top secret, so you couldn't be just randomly taking pictures and putting them out there. It was a
Yeah.
very uncertain time. We look back on World War II and think, oh, everybody knew it would take 3.5 years. Everybody knew we were going to win. And what I found through my research is that it's really not the case at all. I
Yeah.
mean, so I wanted to explore in this book not only the call to serve that they did, in 1942, but also what happened in 1945 when they were called to, okay, now you can go back to the way you were, even though they had changed, quite a bit as human beings. And I wanted to explore that side of it as well.
That's an interesting side that we don't talk about enough, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
When everybody came back home, men and women serving in the military, they come home and people try to assimilate back into life, back
Hmm.
into jobs. And again, those roles that they've held during that period of time as women stepping into those roles,
Hmm.
they're kind of been like sent back home. And like, it's like, wait a minute, like
Yeah,
we've carried it all this time and we know what we're doing and we like it
yeah.
of our new roles. So that's an interesting
Hmm.
change, right? For the
Yeah,
women that
it's
had to go
it's
back.
why I picked the title, Poster Girls, and also the cover is, if you can see,
Yeah.
it's the Rosie the Riveter image on the top is about to be papered over, or a billboard papered over with an image of a mop model, and so that's how sort of the book ends, is the poster or the idea of Rosie was being replaced. Mhm.
So tell us more about Rosie for those that are unfamiliar with her as a character and who she is.
Mhm.
Tell us
Yeah.
more about her history as well.
Well, I mean, certainly everything that we've sort of learned is also still true, about Rosie. I mean, and the fact that she was sort of a compilation of a Norman Rockwell, you know, uh, Life magazine or whatever, or Saturday Evening Times or whatever it
Yeah.
is. Saturday Evening Post, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So the Saturday Evening Post famous painting of Rosie that Norman Rockwell did in 1943. Then there were also several companies that sort of used her image throughout the years during the war as well as after, and sort of she morphed in sort of the modern day. But what I was interested in learning when I did the research, I researched it for about a year, was that there were a lot more people of color that that served their country domestically. These kind of ammunitions plants, and Detroit went from making cars to making tanks. A lot of pivots happened in cities big and small throughout the U.S. I'm sure throughout Canada as well.
Mhm.
That they actually did hire quite a few people of color, yet they were not represented in the posters. So that's kind of why I picked the cover art that I commissioned.
So you said a year worth of research. Is that total, or was there even more research that had to go into the book?
I started researching it in 2018 and then
Okay.
started writing it in 2019. So,
Okay. All right. So is it really hyper focused on your part of the world, or is it kind of cover the United States in general? Like, what is the main focus then?
um, well, and that's interesting too, because when I say I did the research, what research was there, right? There wasn't a ton that was written on the plant, but I used my local libraries. I love my local library. For that research, I actually went to Washington, D.C. and went to the National Archives to look there for any information. And unfortunately, there really wasn't any. But I was trying to, get the right sources. Of course, our local newspaper archives, things like that, that are very well available online. And then I wanted to talk to some women whose mothers had worked there. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anyone who actually worked there at the plant at the time because they were all gone by that point.
Hmm.
But I have since found one, but she was not there for the time that the book was written. But so anyway, that's kind of fun. But so I wanted to, sort of do the research. I'm sorry, could you repeat your question a second? Sorry.
Yeah. What the total amount of research time that you
Oh,
had spent in
yes,
this? Yeah.
yes, yes. So 2018 was dedicated to that. But then once I started writing it, that sort of bled into lockdown, COVID lockdown. And then before that, there was the Me Too movement. So there were things that I learned about myself that I was like, oh, well, there are, yes, there's local history that I can research for this, but there are, um, national and global implications for women and gender equality, that kind of thing, that I can explore as well. And then in 2020 is when George Floyd was murdered here in the
Right.
U.S. And so I learned a lot about. I really dove kind of into the Black Lives Matter movement and learned that there's all sorts of things in our history that we had buried in terms of just unfairness, to Black people. So
Yeah.
I wanted to put those into the book as well, and how the characters might play them out.
Okay. So talk about a little bit about who the audience is for the book. Did you have somebody in mind that you were kind of writing to that would enjoy this book?
I mean, primarily it is a women's empowerment story, but I
Yep.
actually I've got a decent amount of men who've really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
The one thing that I've enjoyed learning more about as um, is how we can all be an ally, and I've loved seeing people that are open to that and say, I don't know everything, and there's so much that I don't understand because of my certain lens, but I am open to learning more about it. So that's why I wanted to put it so written in third person close, which is another thing you have to learn when you're writing a book, is like, are you going to write it in first person or second person or third person, omniscient, that kind of thing. So I chose third person close, and but it alternates. There's two main protagonists, so it alternates between the perspective of a white woman and the perspective of a Black woman. So,
Wow. And how historically accurate is the book then? Like, are there real people behind these behind your characters, or is it a kind of a
That part
collection?
of it
And
is the fiction part
okay.
of it. But I did read as many World War II books on this region. So there's one. So Charlotte has a name. It's called the Queen City because it was named after Queen Charlotte. Uh, you know, hundreds of years ago. And so there's a book called The Queen City at War, and it talked about that women at this plant. So President Roosevelt had just issued an executive order that banned racial discrimination from the defense industry only. So this would have been 20 plus years before the Civil Rights Act was passed in the 1960s in the U.S. But this executive order was there, and it was, if you've ever seen the movie Hidden Figures or read the
Hmm.
book Hidden Figures, that's how those women were able to work at NASA, and they got paid the same. So there was no wage discrimination based on race allowed in the defense industry.
Right.
That was done in 1941, even before we went to war, but it was done in anticipation of the labor shortage that was about to take place.
Hmm.
So it was interesting. And so, what this book said, this book, The Queen City at War, was if, it was really kind of, I call it intuitive. I wasn't even surprised. It's like, well, if you pay people the same and they ride the same bus and they, there's no one sitting in the back or the front or whatever. They're just, they're all, you put them on that same level playing field when they
Hmm.
start. Now there probably was still gender discrimination, so probably men did get paid more at the plant. There were several men that worked there. Um, but from a starting wage standpoint, if you make that equal and you make other things equal, that they actually got along. And that book did quote some women when it was written, a few decades ago, quoted some women who did testimony to that.
Hmm. Okay. All right. And now the other part of all this, I don't know if you wrote the book with this in mind, but now you've been optioned for your book to go to film in the future, which is exciting and maybe overwhelming, I guess. I don't know. Like, I haven't had anybody on the show to date that this has been a reality for them. So how does this even happen?
Yeah, I just got really, really lucky with because I'll send it to whoever. I mean, that's not the issue as far as word of mouth growth of the book or me sort of marketing it where the very little that I have time to market it. And even whether you get I will say to the writers out there, whether you self-publish, do hybrid, do a traditional publisher, you're going to have to market your book. Like no author is getting out of that. But there's except for a handful of folks, there are no more what they call it, publicists, that are assigned to certain things. I mean, it's much more is expected of the author to be thinking about their own passion project and how can this fit, within the marketplace is my quick pitch. So I've sent it to several people, and then someone told me about a PBS series that had just been done on Christina Capra, who's the one who's optioned it, and I sent it. I emailed her, and we met. She had just moved to Charlotte, and she really liked the book, and she optioned it for the movie rights for the next 2 years. So it's pretty phenomenal. Like I still really am pinching myself. I can't believe that I got that lucky. So it's just a testament to just put yourself out there as much as you can, as often as you can, and then see what comes back. That's really all that's within our controls.
Yeah.
But
That's gotta,
but
yeah.
to be clear, it is an option. So
Yeah.
it's not like in
Yeah.
production or
Yeah. I
has
know.
not funded that kind of thing. But it's
Yeah.
just exciting to have that as an option.
That's a great kind of seal of approval as well for the idea, all the work you've done for it, putting it out into the world. Having book sales is awesome, but then also to have curiosity from someone like that, that's pretty encouraging. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, the book sales world has been enlightening to me. Probably I'm not that different than other authors that are out there. The publishing industry is definitely transforming a little bit, morphing a little bit. But yeah, so it's really exciting to me in the fact that if this does get made into a movie, it would have a wider distribution for the story, because I just really love the story. So
Hmm. Nice. It's great. Yeah, again, like I said, I haven't had a lot of authors on that this has been the reality for them, that they can even talk about something like that, or even think that someone would be interested to option their book like that, and to kind of the potential. I'm excited for you that that could be a reality for you down the road. That's awesome.
thank you. Yeah, yeah. So we're knocking on all kinds of wood.
There you go. Well, we're putting it out there in the world,
Yeah, right. That's
right?
all you can do. That is all you can do. But it
And
is
when you,
still a
yeah,
long road. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And when
Right.
your book,
So anyone,
when
any
you're,
production companies out there, you just look up ChristinaCapra.com, and she
right,
has a great uh, family heritage. She's from Frank Capra,
yeah,
Frank Capra was her grandfather, and Frank Capra Jr. was her dad. So yeah, just
nice.
pretty impressive. So
Well, I'm just envisioning you walking the red carpet, pictures going off, and you're like walking into your movie premiere. That's what I'm putting out into the world.
well, thank
Okay.
you, Dave. I
That's what I want.
appreciate
Yeah.
that. That means a lot to me. It
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. No, it's great. What kind of lessons did you learn about yourself in writing the
Oh,
book?
yeah. Um, well, I think if I can go back to those two larger movements, like through, so I had the idea before like the Me Too movement hit. So, but I learned what a token is, and what it means to be a token in the room. And that could be if you're the only man in a room full of women, or if you're the only Black person in the room of all, white people, or only person of color, in the room. Same thing for a woman. So I really wanted to play that out in the story, and sort of have them, feel that uncomfortable uh, feeling that comes with being that you're sort of representing your entire race, you're representing your entire gender, you're representing, and it's you are just looked at differently whenever you speak up, and there's certain things that are assumed about you in the room. So I wanted to explore that. I think I did a good job of that in the book, um, by creating a couple of characters, kind of with conflicting needs and wants, and yet they kind of all have their arc, and they all come around. So that was fun to play out. And then understanding myself as not a person of color, how that impacts my lens in life, and what I don't even realize that I don't know, and what it means to. So I had a sensitivity reader that read the book and gave wonderful suggestions and how to improve it, from a lens that I did not own.
Hmm.
And so every single thing that she wanted me to change, I changed, and it became a better book as a result.
That's interesting. I'm glad that you did that, because again, we don't know what we don't know,
Yes,
right?
amen.
And to get
Yeah,
another point of view makes the
mhm.
book richer, and it's going to connect better with other audience members as well. So
Yeah,
I'm glad that you took that path. That's good. It's a good
yeah.
point.
And I've always been a lifelong learner, and the more that I learn, it's like the more that I learn, the less that I know. That I realize that there's so many things out there that, like, if I got that wrong, my gosh, what else have I got wrong? So it is a humbling thing to go down that learning path, but it's also enriching.
Was there any, is there any locations around where you are that you can visit as part of the book and as part of the research, or is everything kind of gone now?
It's all gone except for
Hmm.
one building that became a Mexican restaurant. So I have gone to that Mexican restaurant. The plant was interesting. It was never built to last, right? So it was a time. First of all, steel was a very tough commodity to come by. So
Right.
this thing was 2,200 acres, which is huge.
Wow.
Um, I'm trying to think of even well, I got a local reference. I'm trying to think of more of a national reference. But anyway, enormous.
Yeah.
Um, Probably definitely bigger than our downtown footprint, but it's just very large. And so they built, instead of building several, a smaller number of larger buildings, because they didn't have steel, and because they were just sort of thrown up there. they actually built 250 buildings. So they were just built out of kind of cinder block and wood and that kind of thing. There was a safety reason for that. They were trying to, because it was an assembly plant. So they assembled the ammunition and they filled it with gunpowder. So there was gunpowder everywhere. It was in the air. It was very dangerous work that they did. So they just wanted to sort of keep the buildings as separate as they could, keep as much as they could separate for the safety of the 10,000 people that worked there for, yeah, there were 10,000 people that worked there, and it was around the clock shifts, 24/7. So 3 shifts a day. Yeah.
Wow.
So they were trying to keep them safe, and they ended up winning 3 or 4 safety stars that the Navy gave out. But then once the war ended, literally on the day the Japanese surrendered, by 2:30 that afternoon, they were all fired and told to go home, and all the land went back to the owner. Which, so the Navy is the one that invested in all the assets, and then there was a company here locally called the U.S. Rubber Company. They're the ones that managed all the labor, so their portion of it was over, and so the land went back to the Navy, and it just sort of sat there for 10 years. And then now it's a bunch of factories that are there. Sort of just actually like probably 10 to 20 different factories that are there. So it's a big footprint.
So the Mexican restaurant, what was that at that point in time back then?
It was the main cafeteria. So, which is interesting. And that's the building that really did catch fire in 1944, and it was rebuilt. And so the story centers around that pretty centrally.
So a book signing at the Mexican restaurant would be in order? What do you think?
I've offered it. But, they are contacting someone's doing a news story coming up. So they are contacting the what is it? The landlord, because I think the people that run the restaurant don't necessarily own the building.
Yeah.
So it's just been 80 years, so there's certain things that are just different in there. And so the people that own it right now may or may not care about that history, but we're still waiting.
Yeah. Well, that would be an interesting place to have a book signing with all the history of that building.
Great food.
Right.
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
I'm trying to get you a sponsorship here. So that's what I'm working on.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, if you're listening and you own the restaurant,
yeah,
hey, reach out to Meredith, get her in
That's
there.
right. That's
Get
right.
some extra traffic.
Yeah.
It's great. Now, am I looking at your website? Am I seeing an audio version of the book as well?
Yes.
Oh,
So
talk about this. Talk about this.
Yeah. So that was released in November of 23, and so that was done by a local voice actress here in Charlotte. So I try to use as many local resources as possible because I love this city a lot, and so that we're pretty proud of as well. So it was a lot of work, but it was definitely worth it. So I really wanted that. If you're familiar with Amazon and you go on any kind of a book page on Amazon, it's got the 4 boxes. You got your hardcover, softcover, ebook, and there's that missing box, and it was really on my nerves. So we published an audiobook to get that 4th box.
I was speaking to an author recently, and they did a book signing at a bookstore. She invited the voiceover actor who did her voice for the audiobook. He came and read a portion of the book at the event. She had costume characters because it was kind of Viking themed, and it was like a big event, right? And it brought the book to life in front of the audience.
Yeah.
And so for you with a local voiceover actor, that is amazing. You could do something with her and have her read in front of the audience.
Yeah, she would be really good at that too. Yeah, but there's something called a staged reading. I've only seen it one time, but it was in like a local theater, and it's sort of like the actors that they carry around, the script itself, and they're reading the part, but they're dressed in black. So it's really just it's seeing their facial reactions or whatever, but it's not the costumes, it's not, but it does kind of make it come to life, really, with just those two things, being able to see the actors faces. There's minimal stage cueing going on, and then just reading the story, so it's kind of fun.
There you go. Yeah, I'm always looking for ways that authors promote their books, whether it's events or book signings or whatever, going to even to your small little bookshop and doing something there, anything that can encourage an author listening because they're trying
Mhm.
to plan out the launch of their book. So
Yeah,
whatever we can learn from each other, I think would be helpful. So
yeah.
any tips for a new author on launching their book?
Oh gosh. Just, kind of be open to all of it. It definitely has phases to the whole process. And part of the daunting thing now is that I know what all those phases are and I know how long the road is. Back then I just sort of focused on one phase at a time. And I would, graduate to the next phase and I'm like, well, put all this effort into it, so far I really need to now uh attack this, new mountain, kind of thing, kind of like the my characters did in the book. So it just becomes a reaching out to your community. Like a writing cohort is huge when you're writing the book. Any other local authors. That's how I sort of found. I don't think I ever asked anybody what the whole process looked like, but I did ask them when I had the idea and they said they liked the idea. And I said, well, would you recommend to me what's the next best step? And that's when they pointed me into the direction that I went, and it ended up being the right direction. So I've never been uh, shy to ask people out for coffee. I mean, it's especially like if you call them up and say, "Oh, I just read your book, and so I loved it." I'm thinking of writing a book myself. Would you please, meet me for coffee? And a lot of times they did the same thing way back when, so they're happy to pay it forward. So,
Excellent. So take us back through the website again, Meredith, because I want to send people to you to connect with you. I know you have an Instagram as well. It's
mhm.
for people that are listening and they're interested in connecting with you. They want to buy the book and maybe future watch the movie. Um,
I know, yeah.
I'm putting it out there again. Where do we go, Meredith? Talk us through the website again.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd love to have more followers on Instagram. That's my really the only like book social media page that I have. So it's just at Poster Girls Book. So that's Poster Girls with an S, plural. Um, the title's a little bit popular, but there's no that's the only Poster Girls that's plural.
Good.
So that's my Instagram page, and I have some reading samples or quotes from the book that are there, and also some of the speaking engagements that I've done, as well as showing people when and where they're reading it. So there's a lot of several tidbits that you can sort of see on the posts that I've used to develop that page. And then the website again is meredithritchie.com. And it is the best way to contact me if you wanted to contact me. So it's a very easy way to just fill out a quick form, let me know what you're thinking about or what your questions are. If you're a reader, if you're local, if you're somewhat local, and want me to come to a book event. I've also done Zoom book clubs that I've really enjoyed. So there are really very few times that I've said no to any kind of reading group that wants to talk to me about what it was like to either write the story or research the story or or experiencing the characters and what I think about the character development. So
Okay. Yeah, and like I said at the beginning, if you want a good example of what a website should look like, go to Meredith's website. It's amazing. It's beautiful. I keep saying I love it. It's a beautiful website. I'm going to leverage the name of my podcast as we wrap up, Meredith.
okay.
How are you as an author, now published author with all these great things happening? How are you living your next chapter?
No, that's a good question. Yeah. So I'll go back to how we started. I had a really dramatic chapter that was ending in my life when my kids, went to college. So I wanted to make that transition intentionally. And it did take some self-awareness of, am I good at change? And it's like, nope, I'm really not very good at change. So it was helpful to me to understand what that next chapter was and how I might react to it. and then try to balance that out with, major projects. Sorry about my cat. Major projects that are that become passion projects. So really, the book itself and writing it and the word of mouth success that it's had and the growth is exceeded every because my kids are 24 now, so it's they don't require quite the hand holding that they used to. They're adults, so but it's also a example to them of you can do hard things, and when you do those hard things, really unanticipated benefits come about, like the movie, like meeting people like you, and I never would have met you, Dave, in Canada.
There you go.
I mean,
Come
it's
on.
really fun. Yeah. So I've enjoyed every second. So
Excellent. That's a great. I love that. And the fact that the book is coming, I can't wait. I'm going to go check after we're done. Make sure it might be here now. But I'm so excited to have a copy. And my wife is probably going to wrestle it out of my hands because she's going to want to read it first. But we'll fight. So you're causing some marital strife for us. Thank you for that.
there's the
There it
ketchup
is.
and mustard
Ketchup
cover
and
again. So yeah, we see it.
It's great. It's a beautiful book. Thank you so much for being part of the podcast, Meredith. Keep us in mind for future projects and things you can come back and
Sure.
talk to us about. I could see you writing something about empty nest syndrome from your perspective, because I think that would be helpful as
It's a
a
sad
fellow
story.
empty nester. I had a staged approach where you had it all at once, but
That's true.
yeah, so that's great too. So thank you so much for being part of the podcast. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Everybody, all the information as always will be in the show notes. Go over and check out Meredith's Instagram page. Go check out the website. Again, beautiful website, everybody. And reach out, let her know you heard her on the podcast. When you buy Poster Girls, please leave an amazing review for the book so that everybody
Thank
knows how
you.
much you love it
That
and the
is how it
reason
finds a
why,
home. Yes.
right? We want to get this book into as many homes in his hands as possible. So my joy as for you as a listener, as you hear Meredith on the podcast, now when you open this book and you read it, you realize the amount of hard work and effort that's gone into writing this book. And you have the voice of the author in your ears as you read or listen to on the audio version. So it's great to have you on the show, Meredith. Thank you so much for
I
being here.
actually did get to I recorded the prologue and I record the acknowledgments. So you get to hear my voice then too in the audiobooks.
See, you're
Fun stuff.
everywhere. It's
Yeah.
good stuff.
It was
Awesome.
fun to do.
Awesome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thanks for listening to Living the Next Chapter, the author podcast. Unlike all the other author podcasts, you can also hear us on Apple and Spotify and Audible and iHeartRadio and on and on and on. Take us with you anywhere you want to go. You can follow us here. You can also take us with you wherever you're heading next. We'd love to be a part of your day. LivingTheNextChapter.com has all the information. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the show. Thank you for pressing play, and catch you next time for Living the Next Chapter.